Okay, so today we're going to be making cheese breads, Brazilian cheese breads. Um, I'm going to give you guys the rundown of the ingredients. So we're going to be using a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ingredients. We will be using whole milk, Parmesan cheese, so that's going to be 6 ounces or 170 grams. 160 grams is fine. Aged cheese, which in this case we're going to be using queijo Minas. So you can see here, aged cheese. We roughly need 1 pound of it. I'm a little bit short, but that's totally fine. So it would be something like 450 grams. We are going to be using 2 kinds of flour, so gluten-free flours. One, it's what's called the sour manioc starch, or polvilho azedo. And the other one, which gives the gumminess to the cheese bread, it's called sweet manioc starch, or polvilho doce. And this you can normally find in the ethnic food aisle in your grocery store. I usually shop at Market Basket, so that's where you can find these 2 kind of flours. We are going to be using 2 eggs, salt, and a neutral oil, which in this case I'm going to be using canola oil. And that's pretty much all the ingredients you need for cheese breads. Now to a pot, we are going to combine 4 ounces of the oil, which is 100 grams, and 400 ml of whole milk, 12 ounces. We're going to combine both together and pour into the pan. And while we have the milk and oil just resting to the side, we are going to measure our dry ingredients. So I will start with the sour manioc starch. We will be using 500 grams. Next, we'll be adding 170 grams of our sweet manioc starch. Once both flours are combined, we will weigh 12 grams of salt. Add it here. Now we will just stir this a little bit to combine, just to get the salt mixed with the flours, the 2 kinds of flours. Now comes a little bit of the boring part of the process. We need to grate our 1 pound of aged cheese. So just go get a bowl, put some music, and go grate your cheese. Once I finished grating my cheese, I'll add the Parmesan cheese. So 170 grams again. And I will now reserve this in the fridge until we need it. Okay, now the oil milk mixture, it's boiling. We're gonna wait just a little bit more to take it out of the heat. And there you go. That's what you should be looking for. Turn off the heat. And we will immediately pour here. Slow speed. Pour. After about 1 to 2 minutes, you see that the dough starts to come together, forming these little clumps. At this point, you can do 2 things. You can finish combining it by hand if you want, or you can just continue to use the stand mixer. I'll use the stand mixer, but for this process now, I will use the hook attachment instead of the pedal attachment because we want it to start to form a dough. After about 8 minutes, we can see that all the milk oil mixture has been incorporated. The dough doesn't have any sort of like dry spots. It's not super smooth, but that's fine. Again, it's a gluten-free flour, so don't expect any sort of gluten development here. So don't worry about the texture too much. What I'm gonna do next is that I will switch from the hook attachment back to the pedal attachment. And the reason is because now we want to incorporate our eggs once the dough has properly cooled. We are going to be adding in one egg at a time until it's fully incorporated before adding the second one. Switch from the pedal attachment back to the hook attachment because now all of our egg has been incorporated into the dough, but we want to bring that dough back together. Okay, it's been about 7 minutes. The dough, it's very stiff, so if you don't want to put a lot of pressure on your stand mixer, what you can do is just from time to time scrape the sides, try to incorporate the dough well, but give the machine a little bit of a rest. Take it out and check your dough. And the dough is going to be very sticky. Don't worry about it. Don't add more flour. That's the way you're supposed to look. So you can see that it's let me move the camera. It's a very shaggy mass, very sticky, but that's normal. We just want to make sure that we are getting to some sort of consistency here, that the eggs are being well incorporated into our dough. And you can just move it around like this, make sure things are coming together. Again, this needs a little bit of time, but it's not that shaggy mass anymore. It's starting to look like a dough. So I'm gonna pop that back into the bowl and knead it for about maybe 5 more minutes, and let's see how it looks. It's been about 3 minutes. My stand mixer is struggling, but that's fine. Again, you can always do this process by hand. Don't break your stand mixer. Let's check the dough if it has a little bit of more of a texture. Okay, you can see that now the dough is at the texture that we want. Quite smooth. It's sticking a way less than it was at the beginning. It's stretchy, so now it's what you're looking for. The dough is ready. What we're going to do next is just to incorporate the cheese with the dough and divide it into the portion size that we want, and that's pretty much it. Let me show you guys. Spread, so yes, it is a lot of cheese. Just pour everything in there. At this point, if you want, you can just grab in with your hand. Try to incorporate the cheese a little bit better with your dough. I was having a little bit of issue with my hook attachment, that it wasn't grabbing the dough properly, so I'm just gonna do this by hand, making a mess, of course, because that's part of the deal. Just incorporating that cheese into the dough, just squeeze it in, make sure that it's well distributed. At this point, you can continue to do this process by hand, or you can just put it back in the stand mixer. Okay, like 20 seconds in the stand mixer, and I think now the cheese is well incorporated. Take it out. Let's check it. Yeah, so no major lumps of cheese just hanging around. Everything seems to be pretty well incorporated. Yeah. Now what we want to do is to just portion. The dough is ready, and I like to do mine as around 50 to 60 grams per cheese bread, and I'm gonna show you guys how do I do that. Okay, baking tray with parchment paper. I have my scale here with a plastic wrap on top just to avoid making a mess, and my cheese spread dough. So I'm just gonna pinch some off and see if I'm around. I'm gonna try this time for 60 grams. 63, that's good enough. So you're just gonna press it over, roll with your hands, try to roughly get into a ball shape structure. If the dough is falling a little bit apart, you can just squeeze it. There you go, that's one. Put it into your baking tray, and now keep doing the same. Again, 60 grams, 55. I'm going to be making another mass, 62 grams. Get it back together, and once it's all good, roll it out, and there you have it. And there we have it. This one at 60 grams, we got 29 cheese breads. It's pretty good. Again, you can make it as big as you want. What I recommend now is that you freeze these like this for about, or at least 1 hour. And once they're frozen, you can just put them in the freezer in a container and keep them for, I don't know, 6 months, and they're still gonna be good. And once you're ready to bake, you're gonna bake these at 350 Fahrenheit or 180 Celsius for about 25 to 35 minutes, depending on the size of your cheese breads. These ones that are 60 grams, they're gonna bake for about 35 minutes. And I'll show you guys how they're supposed to. And there you go, you have a cheese bread. Let's check it out.